The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for Short Time.
Hey, it's Warren Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine. The one and only Chael Sonnen. And you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Now up on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, we are going to talk with the first All-American since the mid-'80s from SIU Edwardsville. It is the first All-American in school history, a full Division I institution. He is from SIU Edwardsville. Jake Residori. Jake, congratulations on your season and welcome to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just cut right to it. You're an All-American from SIUE. What's that meant in the last couple of weeks for not just you, but for Coach Spates and the program?
I mean, it's been awesome. I've been able to stop by in the room a few times, and my roommate's been telling me that the atmosphere in the room is just completely changing. I mean, it was tough before, but he says now that people are on each other, holding people more accountable and stuff. So he said there's been like a lot of yelling at each other in the room and whatnot, but he says it's a good thing, because people see that it is possible to All-American around here, and people are just they're taking it more serious, more competitive.
When you look at SIU Edwardsville on the wrestling map, and the last All-American was while the school was a Division II institution, and in those years, the qualifier, you'd win the D2, and then you'd go on to D1. Tim Wright, who was a four-time All-American at the Division II level, was the last guy. 1987, you weren't even born. So, when you look at it from a program standpoint, what's it mean to you personally now to know that, okay, I'm the first one in this new era of SIUE wrestling?
It's crazy. I really don't know how to explain it. It's something that, I always thought that I could do, and I went to this program, and doing it it's more special, but I never thought that I couldn't do it. It's just like doing it here it just makes it that much better. And people do it all the time. Like, I'm not like the first All-American anywhere, but because I did it at this program, it just means so much more. And it's awesome. It feels good.
SIUE is a program that doesn't get a whole lot of national attention in any sport, let alone wrestling. But when you look at the type of athlete that goes to SIUE, what are some of the misconceptions you feel the wrestling community has about programs like SIUE, lower funded or smaller mid-major teams that you're like, that guy's like, who comes to wrestle here?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gets disrespected, but I mean, it's a great program. We got great coaches, and everybody in that room is tough. But I think one of the main things that's always held our team down, and I'm pretty sure most other small schools can kind of understand this perspective, is that you go against those big name schools like Oklahoma and Iowa, Illinois, and it's just like, it's the fact that they're a big school that almost intimidates you. And a lot of people will get defeated before they go out on the mats. And it's really not that those wrestlers are that much greater than the other guys at these smaller schools. Like, everybody at the Division I level is really good. But I think the main thing is just confidence. Like, that's what really separates the small schools and the big schools, because I mean, everybody's putting in the work for the most part.
You talk about confidence. Where does that confidence come from? And as far as the difference between, this was your first trip to nationals, and a lot of people see this as like, where did that confidence come from in your first trip to all right, top 8, that's on me?
I mean, it really just comes from my coaches. Like, Spates just would always tell me how good I was and stuff. And, I never, I believed him, and I knew that I was good, but I just never knew if I could actually break through. And then we got a new coach, Grahalis and Rossi, and those guys are complete nuts. And Grahalis would actually get really mad at me if I lost. He's like, "No, look, you're way too good to be losing." And he would just get on me, and then I had to wrestle him in practice, and he was a phenomenal wrestler. I think he's like third at the NCAAs, and I was going toe to toe with him. And I mean, he was a smaller guy at the time, but he's bigger than me now. So going toe to toe with him really kind of just let me know that, like, hey, I can do this.
Not going to throw Eric under the bus at all, but I don't think it surprises anybody that he's bigger than you now after wrestling his career at 149.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah, because there is a little story. This is years ago. I brought this up to Eric when he was on the show after his senior year. I remember him standing outside of the Pats and Geno's in Philly. I want to say it was after the Beast of the East when he was like a 7th or 8th grader at Brandon High School in Florida, and he dropped his cheesesteak or his French fries or something. He was just destroyed, and it was. I remember it was just a little kid. I'm like, oh man! And then now he's bigger than the 174-pounder I'm talking to now. That story has nothing to do with anything. It gives me a chance to talk about Eric dropping his cheesesteak when he was in middle school. But circling back to this tournament,
yeah.
Historically, you had been close. You had been close to making the show before. Your sophomore year in the conference finals. And you get hurt. You didn't even really have a chance to wrestle that whole match. I mean, it was quickly in. I mean, what was that feeling like to know? All right, well, crap, I'm not going to go to nationals now.
Yeah, it sucks. But at the same time, I wasn't like necessarily in the zone that year. I was just kind of still like I get to college and I was going through some stuff at home, so I really wanted to go back home, kind of. So, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like, I just had some, like, family issues going on and stuff, so I dislocated my elbow, and that actually, I mean, I was still really bummed that I didn't get to go to nationals, but at the same time, I was able to go back home for a little bit, so it was really nice going back and seeing my family and stuff. And they were there to support me, and they brought me home, so it wasn't, I guess that's just, like, the only good that I can take from that, but I mean, still really, like, I don't know, it's just a really bad way to end your season, like I would have rather gone in and lost the match, but just like the uncertainty, like I could have won, I could have qualified this year, something could have happened. So I don't know, mixed feelings about the whole situation.
When you finally qualified this year, winning the Southern Conference, was that a sigh of relief though that I finally got there?
Oh yeah. Definitely, because I mean, as I said, like my goal was always to be an All-American, and it comes down to my senior year, and I hadn't even qualified yet. And I was just like, in my mind, I was just like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I wanted to have already been an All-American at this point, and I have like I just felt like never going to be respected as a wrestler. I mean, if I hadn't even qualified yet.
Before we even get to the tournament itself, you weren't exactly chopped liver coming out of high school, and this is something I wanted to point about the misconceptions is that people that go to these smaller schools aren't accomplished; they're just looking for spots. You were an Illinois state champion, which that year, Jack Decco, Sam Brooks. I mean, there are names. Johnny Jimenez was in the tournament. I mean, you got these studs that are coming through, little guys that are all around the country. I mean, a good senior class, but you were a state champion. And of those guys you beat in that bracket, Joe Areola was a national qualifier at Buffalo. He had that big win over Vic Avery a year or so ago. Ricky Robertson was at Wisconsin. So these are guys that are Big Ten MAC schools, and you are the state champion at that weight class, and you pick SIUE. Why did you pick SIUE?
So I just I didn't really want to go to U of I because I never, believe it or not, I never really liked that campus and stuff. And I knew I wanted to stay in Illinois because I get kind of homesick if I go too far away. So I wanted to be somewhat like relatively close to home. And I didn't really. There was something about NIU that kind of it wasn't. I just knew it wasn't right for me. And U of I just wasn't really right for me. And then I went down to SIUE, and they got this phenomenal campus. It's basically like in the woods. I don't know if you've ever been down here, but I don't really know how to explain it. And I'm kind of an outdoorsy type person, so I just kind of I just knew this was the place that I wanted to go, and we had good facilities, and yeah, it was the right place for me. I knew it.
So when you're getting recruited, Jeremy Spates isn't even the coach yet, and this is something that coaching changes happen. You got a guy like David Ray, not necessarily a national name, but a respected coach when he was coaching at Montana State Northern. What is the recruiting pitch like for a kid like you, Illinois state champion? You already kind of had a favorable mindset about the campus, but what are those phone calls like that ultimately lure you to Edwardsville?
So, I mean, it wasn't so much the phone, but the visit. So when I came here, I kind of fell in love with the campus. And I remember David Ray and Donovan were just like, just kind of like, they seemed like laid back type of people, and they were joking around and stuff. I knew that this is like kind of the environment that I needed to be in, because wrestling's such a hard sport that you need to joke around, to kind of trick yourself that like it's not as hard, it's not as bad as you think it is, because like at times wrestling could just be really, really hard. So you have to have a good like joking atmosphere just to get yourself through it at times. And I saw that with the coaches here, so that's why I wound up coming.
So then there's the coaching change. Jeremy Spates comes in. His dad was the coach at Oklahoma. He was an All-American at Missouri. Jeremy was. He's also an aficionado of the disc golf. What is that transition like with Coach Spates coming in and knowing this wasn't the guy who recruited you?
Honestly, it was even better. Like Spates is, I just love like Spates always had such. He always like for his assistant coach, he always had somebody that was just like kind of like meaner, like he had Tommy Owens before, and Tommy was just like in your face, like he'll let you know when something's wrong and blah 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 blah. And then Spates is just that super calm, laid back guy. So he always had like this really great coaching staff mix that like, you went to one guy for one thing and then the other guy for something else, but like you always like they always made sure they covered all the aspects of what was going on with you, whether it was like your just like they were always able to I don't even really know how to explain it, but you had like two completely different personalities in the room, and it was just like it was nice. Like it flowed well in the room and everybody seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah, there's been a couple different assistants come on in. I know Tommy Owen was in there, and then he took the Division III job at Averett back in Virginia. And then you add Eric and Rossi Bruno to the staff, a couple guys who were All-Americans at Michigan. Big school guys from Power High School program at Brandon. What does that mix? I mean, what does it take for an athlete to really benefit, as you were talking about the difference in coaching staff? What makes that such a cohesive unit for an athlete to have such varying degrees of personalities on a staff?
Because, I mean, everybody responds to things differently. Like some people need to be talked to and calmed down, and some people just need to be yelled at. And like, that's why you need that type of staff. If it's just completely one-dimensional, you're going to have people that hate it here, and then you're going to have people that love it here, and then you're going to have the people that hate it, like bringing down the people that love it. So, and sometimes you feel different ways every day. So it's always nice to have those different personalities, people that you can talk to in the room.
So let's get back to this season. Coming in, you hadn't qualified yet. Then there's a stretch there where you had lost 6 matches in a row, and that kind of ended with the Midlands. And then you went on a streak where you won 11 of your last 13 matches. What was going on there in December that you hit that slump, that slide?
I think I've done that every single year, and it just reaches that midway point in the season, and it's just it starts weighing on you. It's a hard sport, and it's just a long stretch. I mean, the years are not short, and I just had gotten to that middle point, and I just wasn't fully like in it. And then we went on, and we went to Christmas break. And I had a week off the mats, and I just completely recharged. I was just like, "What am I doing? Like, I need to refocus. This is my senior year, and I'm not wrestling to my abilities right now." And I kept telling everybody, I was like, "You're gonna see me turn it on at the end of the year." I just wasn't mentally in it at the time, and I know it sucks to say, but like it happens with such a long season and everything.
Yeah, because after the Midlands, and then you pick it up. And looking at your bio, for those who see the record, they'd be like, 14 losses. Well, 12 of those were the guys that were in the tournament. You only had 2 relatively bad losses all year. And you come back through. You win the Southern Conference, which is not a bad weight at the SoCon that year. And you get drawn in, and you're right out of the chute. You've got a pigtail against a guy from the Big 12 and Matt Reed. I mean, what are you thinking going into the tournament, knowing that Okay, I'm here. Oh, great! Wow, I'm not seeing a seed, but I'm in the pigtails right off the bat.
I look at the pigtail as a good thing because me and the coaches were talking about it, and I didn't have the best pigtail match. I was kind of slow. I was a little bit sluggish, but I still wrestled hard, and I was able to finish the match 3-0. And then that led me into Crutchmer's match, and I just had to warm up a good first burn. So, and I was able to wrestle even harder that match. But I think that pigtail was necessary. I needed it. I needed to my first match at the NCAAs, and I just kind of needed just an opener like that before I hit the first rounds.
Now, a guy like Matt Reed, who is just notoriously dangerous. I mean, he can lose to anybody, but he can also beat anybody. I mean, this is a guy that's had a lot of good wins in his career. What were you thinking about going into that match? What was the approach to how to handle a guy that was this dangerous?
Yeah, I didn't really know his style much. I hadn't watched any film on him or anything, so I didn't know that he was super dangerous. Spades had me going over front headlock defense all week, and I never really knew why. And then he told me before I went out of the match, he's just like, okay, so just be careful when you're in the front headlock position. He'll try to throw you in certain scenarios. But I'm a pretty strong wrestler, so I'm pretty good at, if I do get locked up, I can pretty much always avoid getting thrown.
So you get past that, you get a one-pointer, and then you run into Crutchmer, who is a returning All-American, but a guy you'd actually had a tight match with during your junior year. You lost 3-2 to him at an open. What did you draw from your previous match experience with Crutchmer that helped you in that championship round match with him?
After that match, I knew he was beatable. I mean, I had a close match with him, and I didn't pull it through because I wasn't wrestling with all of my confidence yet. But I just knew. I was just like, it was a 3-2 match. That was anybody's match. I just need to go out there and wrestle hard. So, I went out there, and he gets the first takedown. And that sucks, but I was still ready to wrestle. I wasn't beat there. And I hit him on – I was watching the film the other day. It was kind of funky. And it was kind of like an underhook, and then I threw my hips into him and whipped him with the underhook, but it was from the opposite side. And I got that takedown, and I knew I was back in the match after that. So, I mean, I always believed that I was going to win that match going in there. And I think I do owe a lot of that to that first match that I had with him. It was pretty tight in the open.
You talked about earlier in the interview, you talked about how some people are beaten before they go on the mat based on what school they're wrestling. When you've got to know the aura that comes around Oklahoma State. You're wrestling your first national championships against a guy from Oklahoma State, returning All-American, who you've wrestled before, but was there any difference in mindset when you wrestled him at an open from Oklahoma State from wrestling him at the Nationals from Oklahoma State?
Yeah, so I think that's what helped me win because, I'm wrestling Oklahoma, but we're wrestling at the NCAA championships. It's the best kids in the nation. And at that point, I knew that I deserved to be on the mat with them. And I think that was the difference,
Then you move in, you wrestle Zach Brunson, who's had a pretty good year. This is a guy that has had significant success over you in college, and then you get dropped into the consolations. You pick up the win over Tyler Shofstall of Edinboro, and then Trace Engelkiss is in your way. And this is a guy you've gone back and forth with through your college career, and you pick up the fall 249. So what is the mindset here when you've got a guy that you've split matches with this year just to stay alive in the tournament? SIUE versus Northern Illinois. You've got a little in-state battle. You guys are very familiar with each other. What are the nerves like in this situation?
I wasn't really that nervous, but I guess I was more excited than anything. So I knew this was going to be the last time that I wrestled him, and I was sick of losing to him. I had lost the last two matches to him, and it's because I didn't open up, and I knew that. So I knew if I was able to open up and do what I can do, that I could beat him. And I knew he was going to be looking for underhooks, and I was just fighting that off, looking for a low single opportunity on him, and then he gets that underhook on me, but he only gets it like partially in, and then he starts running it because he's trying to force it in, and it was almost disrespectful to a point because he put himself in such a bad position to get that underhook that I was able to hip toss him over and get the fall. But Yeah, so I don't know. It was weird. I mean, I almost never throw people too, and I think in any other match where the circumstances weren't so high, I don't even know if I go for the throw. But I was wrestling at the top of my game at the time.
Yeah, and his background, he was a pretty good Greco guy in high school. Had you guys have your paths crossed when you guys were growing up?
No, not really. I never wrestled him in high school. I wrestled him at a freestyle tournament, and then I wrestled him at Midlands, and then a couple times in duels.
But you knew the underhook style. He had a pretty good season, so that's one thing. Now you get into the blood round, and you've got the number 4 seed. At what point do you start looking at brackets, knowing that top quarter, people were circling with Mark Hall and Zach Epperly, and after you lost to Zach, are you looking at the bracket at all, going, okay, here's who I've got. What am I doing? What are you thinking when Zach Epperly drops down in your bracket?
Yeah, it was just another match. And that's how I was thinking at the time. Just another match. I knew I never really looked too far ahead in the entire tournament, and I just took it one match at a time. Because, I mean, if you look at it too far, it's completely overwhelming. If I would have told myself before the tournament who I would have had to beat and, like, what road I would have to take, I probably would have lost the pigtail match and then my next match. But I just took it one match at a time. And then I guess for the moment when I see Zach Epperly, it's just I wasn't really too phased. I just knew that I had to go out there and I had to wrestle really hard. It's one match, and you All-American. And I knew that Epperly was extremely tough, but I just knew that I had to have the match of my life. I just had to go out there and wrestle as hard as I could.
And in some cases, and I'll go back and I look at the sequence, it's not necessarily even the match of your life. It might be the move of your life, because he's working the knee tap series. He's working cradle, and he's incredibly strong. He's a big 74-pounder, and you just countered it. And I look over, and I'm announcing, I'm like, near fall for Residori, and I'm like, holy crap, is SIUE going to get an All-American? Like, explain that scenario when he's sitting there, he's active, he's going for the knee tap, he's going cradle, and then boom, you're just like, nope.
So in the beginning of the match, he goes for this whole sequence again where he actually runs it extremely well. He goes to the front headlock, he'll snap you a couple times, he'll knee tap you, and then he'll go to the ankle. And he did that, and he sucks the head in too. And so in that situation, you really have the option of getting cradled or kind of backing off and giving up the takedown. So I get in that early, and I back off and I give him the takedown. And then that comes down to the very end of the match where we get in that same sequence, and Epperly does everything right. He head snaps me, he knee taps me, he grabs my ankle, and then he's going around again. But at this point, it's not like I can just give up the takedown. I have to just go for it. So I let him lock up the cradle, and I drive as hard as I can into him, and I pick up near fall points. And the weirdest thing about this is I actually had this scenario come down when I wrestled South Dakota State. I wrestled David Kosher, and he hits me in this cradle, and I go into it because I didn't want him to get around the ankle, and he hits me in this cradle, and I'm not able to drive through, and he puts me in my back. And the next day, Gerhalis takes me into the room, and we actually go over that position. So he's showing me if I do go to the cradle, because he didn't think that was necessarily a bad move for me to go to that cradle, because I'm really strong, so I can actually finish that most of the times. Like in the room, I finish it all the time when people go for that. But yeah, he was just showing me that you got to drive in and do this. So I thought it was kind of silly that he was showing me that. Like, who shows going into a cradle and getting a takedown? But Gerhalis took me into the room and he showed me that, and I wound up using that to become an All-American.
Yeah, because if you're sitting there saying, okay, when you get cradled, you're like, well, you've just basically destroyed any defense that I'm supposed to do here. So you're saying after everything else fails, here, try this. I will never understand coaching in some respects, but hey, you're right, it worked.
Yeah.
All right, so you finish out with losses to Miles Amin, and then Crutchmer gets a little bit of revenge. But When the tournament is over and you're beaten up, you're off the podium, and the shower hits you for the last time after your last college tournament, and the mat burn is burning you, what is going through your mind knowing, oh man, I've wrestled my last college match, I finished as an All-American like I expected to be, now what?
You know, just like, there's not much going through your head. It's just, you're just happy, you know, like, because, you know, wrestling can be so stressful and so brutal, and you put in all that work, and not everybody's able to reach their goals, but I was able to reach my goals. So I was just sitting there as happy as could be, you know, thinking about kind of everything that I had gone through, the people that had helped me get to that point. Like, I thought of all my old coaches, my family, some of my friends, and, you know, it was a good moment.
When you wrestle at a school like SIUE, is there that embedded chip on your shoulder, knowing that for a lot of the kids, they might have ended up there because they were overlooked, and some kids are like, you know what, no, or some kids that go there like, I wasn't overlooked, I chose here. Like you said, you chose it there, you weren't overlooked. What comes into that team aspect? It's you guys against the world when you go out to a tournament like this. Yeah,
and I think that's actually can be a problem at sometimes, is that people don't have that chip on their shoulder. So as I was saying, like, since I had All-American, like, that's kind of what's going on in the room right now. People got a chip on their shoulder. They're yelling at each other for not putting in the work and stuff. And yeah, I think it's kind of something that you got to have that chip on your shoulder if you're at a smaller school like this. Otherwise, you know, the people you'll get underlooked.
What is it about the team that you've seen the biggest change from the time you were a freshman, from the time you were a senior?
I mean, it's actually crazy, like, to know the difference in the program. Like, before Spades got here, like, we hardly even lifted or anything. Spades came over and we wound up getting a new weight room, and we have a specialized lifting program. We got one. I don't know if you've ever seen the weight room at SIU, but it's amazing. So I mean, we're always got a good lifting schedule going down. We all come in for individual drills a couple times a week, and practices so much more organized than they used to be here. I mean, it's hard to explain, but it's 10 times as good as it was when I first came here, and it's just continuously improving. We've gotten weights in the room, we've gotten pull-up bars in the room. It's not even the same. It's not the same as it was when I came in here. It's completely different. The atmosphere is just better. We're starting to get guys that want to work hard and want to push themselves, and, you know, people just feed off of that. So we got the right people in the room, and we're doing the right things.
Have you given much thought to how much your performance is now going to impact the program moving forward?
Yeah, I hope it just gives the guys some belief, you know, because I want the guys that are in the room right now just to believe in themselves and know that they can All-American. Like, it's very possible to do. And so I hope they feed off of that, and then we get a couple more All-Americans, because I think there's some guys in the room that could definitely do it. And then from a recruiting standpoint, I think it boosts the program, because it shows, like, that Spades and Hollis and Ross, like, they're great coaches. Like, they know what they're doing.
When you look at the team performance, I mean, it wasn't just you in the blood round here. Freddie Rodriguez, who was a junior college national champion, had transferred in, and a lot of credentials followed him coming in from his days as an age group, you know, Triple Crown winner. You and Freddie are both in the blood round here. And how did you guys go through things similarly? What were the differences between y'all's experiences going into that last match?
You know, we didn't really say much. We were rooming together, and we had our break in between, and we just kind of went back and just relaxed, watched a movie. So we were just confident about it. We're like, all right, let's go All-American now, you know? Like, there's just no doubt. And unfortunately, Freddie wasn't able to quite get there. But, I mean, Fred's an amazing wrestler. I mean, that guy is tough as nails, and he is probably one of the best paces I've ever seen of a wrestler. And he'll just come at you. But, I mean, yeah, we were confident with each other.
When it comes to momentum, I mean, were you paying attention to his bout? Or was that a letdown for you, or did you just have to block all that out?
You pretty much just gotta block it all out. I couldn't even go out there and watch the match because I didn't want to get too emotional about what was going on with Fred because I still had my own thing to do. But I sat there and I watched the scoreboard because they got the little TVs back in the rooms. So yeah, I watched the scoreboard and I seen that he lost and I kind of just blocked it out. I was just like, I'll talk to Freddie later, but I got some business to take care of still.
What does Coach Spates say to you?
He was so happy. Like I don't think I've seen him stop smiling until I don't even know if I've seen him stop smiling yet. He was just so excited. And he's just I just kept saying, "Can you believe it?" Blah blah blah. And him and Gerhas are just like, "Yeah, stop saying that. Like you deserved it." Like, and they were just happy as could be.
So what's next for you? I mean, not everybody goes to college to be a wrestling coach and a wrestling guy. I mean, there's got to be some career plan. What are you looking to do once you've gotten that degree and gone off into adulting in the real world?
Right now I'm working. I actually graduated last spring. So I've been going to grad school down here at SIU, and I think I finished that up in December. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to coach. I'm gonna try to coach as much as I can here. I think Spates is working on getting me a job within the program. So yeah, I'm planning on helping these guys out. And after that, probably go back to Chicago. I want to work a little bit, but I got a degree in entrepreneurship, so eventually I want to start my own business. I need to get in the business world, just kind of work a little bit and just see how everything works. I mean, I've gone to school and everything, but I just need to get in there and actually get some hands-on experience with it before I think about what I want to do yet. So I haven't really thought too far into what type of business I'm going to do, but I just want to get my feet wet first before I do anything.
Any particular thing that you're like, man, I think this is a problem I can solve? Because that's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. They find a problem and they try to solve it, and then they create a business around it. There's something that's like, man, why does this video game controller not stick right? Well, why does this pencil not sharpen? I mean, anything that's kind of tweaked your brain, but I want to fix that.
Yeah, I think that about a lot of things, but it's nothing anything too deep. I do always look at something. I'm like, that'd be so much better, but. Yeah, nothing major really, nothing that I could think of at the top of my head, but that is kind of typically how my brain works.
And now comes to the time where it is short time on short time. 10 questions, no thinking. First answer that comes to your mind. Ready, set, go. All right, question 1. Who's your favorite person to follow on Twitter?
My sister.
You win the Olympic gold medal. What are you having for dinner?
Chicken.
You're the first one to pick chicken. I think everybody else has picked steak. Anyway, okay. Question 3.
I think I want to change it.
Okay, so go for it.
Ribs.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you win. Question 3. Who's the best wrestler people don't talk about?
Kyle Big. Well, I guess they do talk about him, but from an Olympic standpoint.
What's your all-time favorite flavor of Gatorade?
The purple one. Actually, no, strawberry. Pure strawberry.
Favorite video game of all time?
Halo.
Favorite international wrestler?
I honestly don't know if I know any.
What move would you rather have in your arsenal? The John Smith low single or the Jordan Burroughs reshot double?
Low single.
Who's one guy from history you'd like to wrestle, regardless of weight class?
Abraham Lincoln.
That's the most common answer. You realize that. Although you are from the land of Lincoln, which does make sense.
Yeah.
Question 9. Who's your funniest teammate, going back to high school or college?
God, that's hard. I think Chris Johnson. He's our old heavyweight. The guy is hilarious.
All right, and what is your spirit animal?
Monkey.
Spider monkey, other type of monkey, or just general monkey?
Gorilla.
Okay, you're okay. That's kind of like a monkey. Yeah. Okay. All right. You're out of that. You're out of the box. So anyway, final thoughts as we wrap up here on things about SIUE, things about your career, people you want to thank. I mean, this is kind of just the open forum for you to say, hey, hi, Mom, or whatever.
Okay. Just shout out to my family, my dad, my grandma, Nana, Papa, Grandpa, sister, and then to my old coaches, Rudy, Harding, Charlotte Boyce.
How about that throwback, a little excite bite for you? I was actually going to give you a chance to figure out what that tune was, but I spent a lot of time watching YouTube to try to figure out videos on how to actually install flooring because I did that this weekend, and I'm extremely sore because I did all the home demolition myself with just me and a crowbar, and basically did 99% of the work. My wife did help me snap the planks together and lay them down at about midnight on Sunday night after I finished watching WrestleMania. So anyway, I was saying I was watching YouTube, and sometimes you can get into the YouTube time suck, and for me, sometimes that's old professional wrestling videos, or it's like Nintendo top 10 list, these Watch Mojos and Looper, and some of these basically pointless lists that just bring back your youth. So the Excite Bite theme was Excite Bike. Yeah, that's a hard thing to say. Like Excite Bike. Yeah, Excite Bike theme. Throwing that out there for a little Nintendo, nostalgia a little bit. I actually am a little bit of a vintage gamer. I have a Raspberry Pi emulator that I play. My wife just kicks the ever-loving crap out of me in Dr. Mario. But enough about video games. We'll go back to, how about that? Jake Residori, great guest here on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Super stoked to have gotten a chance to talk with him, and congratulations to the Cougars. Go Cougars! That's for you, Earl. That's for you, my buddy Billy. It's an inside joke. But the SIUE Cougars and Coach Jeremy Spates with an All-American, new era of Cougar wrestling, first one since Tim Wright back in the 80s. So big things going on for that program. Jake Residori, the first of our unheralded All-Americans, so to speak, is throughout the course of this program, I'd like to pick up interviews with All-Americans, not necessarily the champions. And by the way, Richard Immel has done a fantastic job in picking up some quality content here on the Mad Talk Podcast Network for bonus points. He just had Julia Salata on talking about her third University Women's Championship. She talked about the D1s. Is actually her and Allie Reagan were using my seats. So anyway, that's making everything about me, like always. No, but Richard had a great interview with Gabe Dean as he talked about what happens when you lose your last college match and you're expected to win. It's a tremendous listen on bonus points, which is available at themat.com and here on the Mad Talk Podcast Network. Nathan Kreiser coming up on the next episode. Also like to thank the Becker family, Dale Eggert, Coach Mike Denny for providing content for the previous episode of Short Time, which is a collection of stories about the late Jim Cook, the head coach at Wisconsin Parkside. So thank you for providing that information that we could put together a small tribute. There's a video floating around by Parkside Athletics on YouTube that it's 30 minutes long, I believe, and it captures a lot more stories than what I did. I just tried to do what I could to at least let the national wrestling community know how powerful of a man and how much of a loss this is to the wrestling community. So thank you to the Becker family, Dale Eggert, Coach Denny, Jim Makovsky as well for getting the ball rolling. So have that to go about, and it's the off season, so news is still going on, people. Just because the last whistle blew on the college wrestling season to Scott Trade Center, that does not mean wrestling news stops. Of course, we know that there is an opening at Pitt. We know that the opening at Virginia Tech was filled with Tony Roby. In case you're wondering, yes, there will be future episodes of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling coming out for those of you that are listening to that show here on the network. I got some personnel issues that they're working through, and they're going to get things situated before Coach Roby comes on with his first show officially as the head wrestling coach there. Working on some other things and new shows in the works with other programs. Of course, the former coach of Virginia Tech is now at a new place, and you can probably expect to see something along the lines there as we get into next season. Nothing 100% confirmed there, but another thing I want to talk about just for a moment. Oh, actually, where was the point of that? Oh, yeah, the news doesn't stop. Sign up. Mad Talk Online's daily wrestling newsletter. This is every single day. You get news delivered first thing in the morning to your email address. Go to matttalkonline.com/news. Sign up. It's free. I also had a iTunes review come in, and you can also, if you like this show, you can rate and review it by going to iTunes. You go to matttalkonline.com/getshorttime, or any of the show links at itunes.com/matttalk. Yes, this network has its own iTunes URL. So itunes.com/matttalk. Click any of those shows within iTunes and leave a rating and review. You can also do the same thing on Stitcher. The other podcast apps don't really allow reviews in the app, but you can just go to your iTunes or your iPhone app, the podcast app. If you're iOS, leave a rating and review. If you're on Stitcher using Android, boom, you can leave a rating and review for the app for this show, because we have free ones for the iOS and for Android. But Le Diplo, I wonder who that could be. Morgan O'Brien. Thank you for the 5-star rating and review. This was on the Matt Talk Podcast Network main feed, which, if you are a glutton to listen to me for 10 shows, you can sign up for the master feed, and that includes the 16 active shows on the network, on the Matt, bonus points, Black Shoe Diary, all the stuff that's out there on the network. You can get it on one feed. So this is where that rating and review came in through the Matt Talk Podcast Network. Thank you, the best in the biz. Jason's smart, funny, engaging, and has great guests. His podcast network is a true gift to all levels of sport. I am going to love that. I love hearing stuff like that. But you know what? I want honest comments. So if you know, I'm not saying only 5 stars. If you think it's a 4-star show, hey, rate it 4 stars. If you think it's a 5-star show, rate it 5 stars. Just love to hear that feedback. So you can also give me feedback any particular way you want by going to matttalkonline.com/contact. And if you really like the show and you've done the rating, you've done the review, and you've left the feedback, and you want to do something a little bit more, you can join the team here at Matt Talk Online by helping us promote original on-demand audio content that is basically unmatched within the sport of wrestling right now. Go to matttalkonline.com/join the team. That is the Patreon page. That keeps the lights on. And now that I know I can repair and do some home improvement stuff, I actually bought a table saw. So now I can build that studio. I mean, I'm going to probably hire out some contractors and frame some of it, but we can work on getting new equipment and create some new shows. Again, the Hall of Fame show. I'm still trying to get a hold of Bruce Baumgartner, folks, but he's a busy guy. He's an AD. He's making sure Tim Flynn stays home. But so you can contribute to this network by going to matttalkonline.com/join the team. I appreciate each and every single person that has contributed to this network. Now I can finally, I've been saying I'm going to do this for months, but now I talked to Cliff Fretwell, our man at Compound at CMP Teamwear and CMPclothing.com. Just Cliff's the man. Quality stuff. So we're going to get the swag bags out to the patrons. Like I said, I've been saying I was going to do that before the end of the season. Well, I announced 4 tournaments, so just cut me a little slack, bro. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you to Jake Residori at SIU Edwardsville, Coach Jeremy Spates, for hooking that one up, along with SIU SID Eric Hess, who does a great job in their sports info. That's all I got for now. Thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time for short time.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to matttalkonline.com.